This is not breaking news. This is not a scandal. This is not about one leader, one country, or one decision made in a room. This is about a system discovering something dangerous, something quiet, something that works. A system learning that it can use force in the dark, that it can shut off the lights, that it can let the numbers blur and still survive long enough to bargain later. What you are watching unfold right now is not chaos. It is not panic. It is controlled pressure, applied deliberately, tested carefully. And the most unsettling part is not the violence itself. It's how easily the world adjusts once it can't see it clearly. If you stay with me, you'll see how this mechanism was built, why it escalates instead of stops, and why it doesn't stay contained where it starts. This matters. Not later. Now. Because once a system learns this trick, it rarely forgets it. And this is where it begins to move. We've seen systems of control before. We've seen them with walls of fear. But what if fear is no longer the only tool? What if the real force today is something more subtle, more insidious? What if the system controlling a nation now doesn't just govern through fear, but through its ability to disappear the truth? What governs now is not the clumsy violence of the past. It's the quiet, steady shutdown of information. It's the certainty that if you pull the plug just right, no one can track what happens next. When you silence the world, it becomes much easier to move. What we're watching in Iran isn't just a struggle for power. It's a playbook, a test, because while the world debates how best to react to this violence, something more dangerous is growing, something much harder to pinpoint, and it's not going to stay here. The illusion that control can be restored through brute force, through internet blackouts, and through the quiet manipulation of information, that's what they are counting on now. And the most unsettling part? It's working. At first, the change was small, almost imperceptible, a quiet shift that no one seemed to notice in real time. It wasn't a revolution. It wasn't a decisive moment. It was just a small systemic shift, a reordering of priorities behind closed doors. Before, the world's rulers were careful, measured. They controlled their people with the tools of the past. Violence was explicit. Power was physical. You could see it, feel it, hear it. But now, it's different. The power has moved from the streets to the shadows, from visible force to unseen pressure. The most dangerous change often happens like this. In slow motion, just below the surface. It's not the sharp shift that catches the eye. It's the small, quiet adaptation, unnoticed until it's too late. And when systems like this shift, they don't go backward. They build, they adapt, they learn, until they've mastered the art of control, no matter the cost. And once this mechanism is in place, it never fully resets. The crackdown on the streets of Iran wasn't just an accident. It wasn't a sudden explosion of rage. It was a carefully calibrated response to a very clear problem. A regime facing the very real threat of losing control. This wasn't an emotional outburst. This was strategic violence. This was the state using its most powerful tool, the gun, the bullet, the execution, directly ordered from the highest levels to suppress any hint of rebellion. It wasn't just about quelling protests. It was about sending a message to anyone who thought they could rise up, anyone who dared to challenge the system. We will find you, we will silence you. And yet, amidst all this, something remarkable happened. The protests didn't stop. They didn't just fade away. They spread and they grew. This was supposed to be a moment where the state crushed dissent. But instead, it's become a moment of revelation. Because the more they kill, the more they silence, the more they expose their own weakness. The cracks are beginning to show. And the world can't look away anymore. The violence in Iran is not contained within its borders anymore. What's happening there, it ripples. It spreads across borders, across oceans, across minds. And here's the thing, no one wants to admit the rest of the world is not just watching, it's waiting. The international community, leaders from across the globe, They see this, they see the bloodshed. They see the bodies piling up. They see the regime's desperation. And while some make declarations, while some offer lip service, there is a growing realization that what happens here will affect everyone. The entire global balance is at risk. When a regime can silence its people this effectively, what's to stop it from exporting that control? From normalizing this method of suppression? From spreading this model of governance? It's not just about Iran. It's about the wider world watching, studying, wondering, could this happen here? Could this system be replicated? Could this become the future we're all heading toward? The question is not what will happen to Iran. The question is, what happens when this system starts showing up elsewhere? Imagine this future. 3 distinct paths, 3 possible outcomes, each one hanging by a thread. None of them certain. None of them safe. Path 1, asterisk, asterisk, adjustment, asterisk, asterisk. The regime adapts. It doubles down on its control, perfects its tactics, and creates a new equilibrium. Maybe it's enough to survive. Maybe it's enough to keep the system running. But at what cost? The regime stays in power, but the people, they remain crushed under the weight of unrelenting repression. Path 2, asterisk, asterisk, erosion, asterisk, asterisk. The cracks in the system grow. The pressure mounts. And even the most tightly controlled state begins to fray at the edges. The violence might intensify, but so does the resistance. It becomes harder for the regime to maintain the silence, harder to control the narrative, harder to keep the world from seeing the truth. And eventually, it may collapse not because of a single uprising, but because the system simply can't sustain itself anymore. Path 3, asterisk, asterisk, rupture, asterisk, asterisk. The regime collapses entirely. The brutality reaches its breaking point, and the world intervenes. Whether through direct action or through economic pressure, outside forces finally tip the balance. But with that collapse comes chaos, a vacuum of power, a new kind of instability, and the fear that this cycle will repeat elsewhere. The worst part? We can't know which path we're on yet. We can't know if this is the final stand of the regime or if this is just the beginning of something even worse. The tension is rising. But for now, we wait. We've been watching this play unfold piece by piece, but we haven't seen the end game. We don't know what happens next. What we know is this: a system has learned to kill and hide, to control and erase, and to survive in ways we never thought possible. And here's the reality. This is not just about Iran. This is about every nation, every system, and every person who believes this could never happen in their own backyard. What we're witnessing is a warning of what happens when power no longer fears the truth, when violence and silence become tools of governance, when the system itself is stronger than the people it oppresses. And this is just the beginning. If the global community doesn't wake up and act, this method of control could spread. And one day, it might be someone else's turn to face the darkness. The question now is, are we watching the last days of this regime or the beginning of a new kind of world order? Are we ready to face what comes next? If you want to understand more, if you want to dive deeper into how this system works and where it's heading, you need to stay informed, stay engaged. The answers are out there, but only if you keep looking. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, and we'll see you in the next one.